Happy holidays. As we won't be able to celebrate the holiday season in person this year, I thought it only fitting to record this message from the Peoria Riverfront Museum, where we've traditionally held our end-of-year celebration. 2020 has been, well, a year to remember or forget, depending on how you look at it. Most of us have, quite frankly, never experienced a year like this in our lives. Sure, we've all experienced times of social unrest, times of economic difficulties, times of political disparity and contentious elections, and even dealing with a pandemic. However, we've never experienced all of this in a single year. Truly a year to remember. However, being the optimist that I am, even in years like this, we've been able to celebrate many successes and learn valuable lessons. I'm going to give you a brief recap of PNC's journey through this incredible year. Our branch network, the lifeblood of our organization, experienced drastic changes. Starting on March 19th, we closed the in-person traffic to our branches for over 6 months. We served you to the best of our abilities through our drive-through lanes and eventually in branch by appointment only. But it wasn't until September 28th, and for some, October 5th, that our doors opened back up to our customers. During this time, in order to take care of the health and safety of our employees, we had our branch personnel working 2-week shifts with the following 2 weeks off. Just a few weeks after we closed in-person traffic to our branches, we experienced one of the most memorable periods of my career, the Payroll Protection Program, known as PPP. I speak for most of our employees when I say that the launch of the PPP, from the first day of the initial funding until the last day of the second round of funding, was amongst the most emotional periods of our careers. Customers desperate for help against a backdrop of daily changes in policy and regulation led to a very unique journey. I spoke personally to many of you that are likely watching this during those trying weeks. In all, we registered more than 73,000 PPP loans across our footprint, with 85% of those loans in the business banking segment, which serves businesses less than $5 million of annual revenue, including nonprofits, sole proprietors, and independent contractors. Almost 80% of our 73,000 loans were for amounts of $150,000 or less, and our total average loan size was $185,000. More than 20% of those loans went to borrowers in low to moderate income census tracts, and over 4,500 were for nonprofit organizations. This was a task of enormous proportions, all in an effort to keep our customers in business. I am proud to say that I have never experienced a time in my career with a more impressive all-hands-on-deck call to our 54,000 employees. The first PNC customers received PPP loan funding on April 12th, a Sunday, which was possible using PNC's 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week RealTime Payment system. More than 95% of PPP payments were made via RealTime Payments, providing immediate relief to small business customers in need. In Central Illinois, we successfully registered almost 250 PPP loans, totaling over $14 million. 95% of those were for amounts less than $150,000, and our average loan size was just under $35,000. Over 25% of these were for borrowers in low to moderate income census tracts. In addition, PNC committed more than $50 million to 8 community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, throughout the country to support the CDFI originations of PPP loans in potentially underserved communities. Needless to say, the entire PPP experience was like building an airplane as it was taking off. Thankfully, we worked as a team, overcame the challenges, and helped our customers with a bit of a lifeline during an extremely tumultuous time. However, PPP alone was not enough to keep our communities running. We also had to deal with the tragic medical implications of COVID-19. Most of you are aware of the philanthropic efforts of PNC in our local community, including grants made by the PNC Foundation and also through corporate sponsorships. In Central Illinois alone, we have reinvested over $900,000 annually over the last 5 years. As you might assume, this year required additional assistance. Due to the generosity of the PNC Foundation, we provided grants totaling over $115,000 to organizations in our local medical community in order to bolster their fight against the pandemic. These dollars were split between each of our 5 major communities in Central Illinois to assist frontline workers in making sure they received the support they needed as the pandemic started to ramp up. At the same time, we recognized another massive implication of the pandemic: food insecurity. With many of the children in our communities receiving several meals a day at school, we knew that we needed to assist when schools began to shutter. As such, we made another donation of $100,000 to the Illinois Head Start Association. Throughout Central Illinois, 6 Head Start organizations, along with accompanying community action agencies, developed supplemental food programs to support Head Start families while also connecting them to other vital community action agency services during the pandemic. These programs allowed families to either pick up food at local Head Start sites through a drive-up or have food delivered for those who did not have access to reliable transportation. This also allowed staff to maintain some interaction with families, which serves as a critical touch point during a stressful time to ensure child welfare and overall family health, safety, and security while complying with social distancing. The dollars provided by PNC, along with the agency funding, provided over 50,000 meals across Central Illinois. Additional funding of over $75,000 was made by the PNC Foundation to the Peoria Area Food Bank, the Central Illinois, and the Eastern Illinois Food Bank. As if this wasn't enough for the country to deal with, we also began to experience one of the greatest civil rights movements of our time, kicked off by the tragic deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Ahmaud Arbery. In the words of our chairman and CEO, Bill Demchak, PNC is against discrimination in every form. Embracing and promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion is not about being politically correct or even about complying with the law. It's about being a better company, a better employer, a better neighbor, and a better investment. This time has allowed us as a company to broaden our definition of diversity and inclusion to go beyond race, ethnicity, and other factors, and to reflect the value of diverse perspectives and experiences. In June, we made the announcement committing more than $1 billion to help end systemic racism and support the economic empowerment of Black Americans and low to moderate income communities. Further, we appointed Richard Bynum, previously the regional president for Washington, D.C., as the company's first Chief Corporate Responsibility Officer, forming a special subcommittee of the PNC Board of Directors to focus on equity and inclusion and to help oversee PNC's efforts, committing to an intensified focus on the recruitment, retention, and advancement of Black talent, and a more comprehensive and sustained effort to create a more inclusive culture at PNC. All of this enhancing internal systems to improve racial equity. Through all of this, we still had a bank to run. If you missed the third quarter earnings release, I'll give you just a few highlights, as I know that many of you are not just customers, but also shareholders. PNC delivered solid third quarter results against the backdrop of a continuing uncertain economy. We generated positive operating leverage with well-managed expenses and increasing deposits, though loan outstandings and utilization fell. Our provision for credit losses was significantly less than last quarter, reflecting stable reserves. We continue to execute on the strategic priorities, including the ongoing investments in our national expansion and digital offerings. We have substantial capital and liquidity flexibility and remain well positioned to take advantage of the potential investment opportunities to enhance shareholder value. All of this to say that we've had a heck of a year. Like you, we've learned a new way of life, and our focus has been exclusively on how to better serve you, our employees, and our community. Continuing the tradition we started last year, we are donating to 5 nonprofit organizations on your behalf. Instructions on how to choose a nonprofit in each of our Central Illinois regions are located within the email message that you've received. Though we've learned extraordinary and valuable lessons in 2020, I'm certainly looking forward to 2021, and I hope that we can see each other in person soon. With that, thank you again for your business and happy holidays.